Welcome to 5 minutes reviews. This time, really, it's gonna be five. I'm gonna divide it like that. Okay, so next up, we talk about the Neolithic period. Yeah. So of course, we are talking about the first agriculturalists. And what does that mean? It means that through artificial selection, those jokers created the domesticated forms of both animals and plants. We are still doing it today. All these beautiful broccolis and Brussels sprouts and this crazy fractal having Romanesco broccoli and all these were simply basically wild cabbage which you see on the lower left. And of course, a more familiar example that you must know is of course our dog friends. They are basically wolves. And how did that happen? The jokes on the wolves, I guess. But they got domesticated. So the powers of artificial selection is immense, and that's exactly what the early agriculturalists did. When did that start? Where did that start? It started in the Near East in this region called Fertile Crescent. It starts from the Gaza Strip, goes all the way to North Syria, turns right at the Taurus Mountains, and reaches the Zagros Mountains and goes all the way to the Basra Gulf, which you, of course, would know from the Gulf Wars. Why this region? Because as the Ice Age was petering out, the final Ice Age, this region had the wild forms of cattle, swine, goats, and sheep, and the wild forms of not one but two types of wheat, but also barley and lentils. And so it was already blessed with the wild forms of easily domesticatable species of animals and plants. So it started right there, and gradually it's reached, on one hand, Europe, on the other hand, Iran and Western India. The Neolithic Revolution happened several times. Mesoamerican is one, South American is another one. Another incredibly important one, of course, the East Asian Neolithic Revolution, which you can see here. But what we are talking about here is the Neolithic Revolution that happened in the Near East, because the Greek Neolithic, the Greek agriculturalists, they came from the East, the technology and also the people. All these numbers that you are seeing on this map, by the way, they are before present, but we're going to be switching to BC with this class. Okay, what are we talking about? We're talking about two types of wheats, one type of barley, and also lentils and peas and chickpeas and bitter veg, which is not used much anymore, and flax, which they use for cloth production, and also they ate the seeds. So these are the founder crops, as they are called. And of course, this guy and these dudes. You see this guy? Jesus, they're crazy cute. But anyway, we domesticated them. So as a result, today we have a huge animal meat industry, and the unfortunate thing is that these animals are new species. They are not anymore the wild form of their former species. So even if we stopped in an ideal world of a vegan and let them roam around, most of them would simply die, except for goats. Goats would survive anything. All right. Then we talked about Göbekli Tepe a little bit. Why did we talk about Göbekli Tepe? Because this incredibly important site, which is at the very region of the earliest agricultural revolution, shows an incredibly strange situation. It shows that people who are not really settled yet, they were still hunting and gathering a little bit on the side. They were starting agriculture. Just then, they were able to cooperate, and together they built a huge sanctuary, one of the earliest cult areas of the world. And this is no settlement, this is a sacred area. All these concentric circles with T-shaped columns. So it looks like maybe different bands of people, different small hunter-gatherer bands, together with the revolution in the subsistence system, they created a new symbolism, a new way of life, which required obviously some religious centers. And some claim that actually religion played a huge role in the first organized settled communities. What type of symbolism are you talking about? Of course, animals are still important. They're being domesticated as we speak, but there's some fantastic creatures too. The first forms of mythology, you would think, yes, of course. Oh, by the way, you're asking about this. Each video I'm going to be wearing another hat of my girlfriend's. And go back to the symbolism, crazy important stuff. Obviously, religion played a huge role in the establishment of the earliest agriculturalist communities. Keep that in mind. And then, of course, gradually agriculture reached Europe and the West. And what happened was, in the end, merely in 5,000 years, it's already in the British Isles. The main question that people literally killed each other over, not literally, figuratively, that's what I mean, of course, was whether or not it was a technology transfer or did the farmers themselves move. Well, today now, after the ancient DNA revolution, we know that it was the farmers themselves, but not the Near Eastern farmers who in this region invented agriculture, not them. Who then? Well, it looks like Anatolian farmers were not the Near Eastern farmers who came to Anatolia from Near East, replacing local hunter-gatherers, but they adopted agriculture themselves from Near Eastern farmers. But then they themselves jumped to the other side and reached Greece. On one hand, it looks like some groups came to Knossos following a different trajectory, and this area here called Barchin, this is the area which probably from the Bosphorus came all the way here, the region called Thessaly.